Good evening. How are you this evening? Well, I'm sitting and talking again because not only do I have a 100-degree temperature, it's also raining. And I've waited while there was still light to see if I could get around that. But the answer, Mr. Jefferson has not helped us again. No wonder he was controversial. Um, the things that are pretty interesting are all bad for Trump. So let me set you at ease that our discussion today will be unsurprising in a way, and I think positive. For example, when Trump is not making dumb or discriminating or doing weird things, he's ducking past campaign violations that have come to light, in fact, in the last several days by a Washington Post report. Get this. In January 2017, the manager at a Cairo bank was directed by the Egyptian intelligence service to produce $10 million in cash. And then that went away from Egypt. Now let's roll this back. There is evidence that Trump gave his campaign, this is the 2016 campaign, when he was short of cash, he supposedly advanced $10 million into that campaign, and we talk about hush money, then he was reimbursed or it was covered by Egypt. Now, the president of Egypt, and forgive me, I don't say this to mock him. I just have never heard his name said. The spelling suggests to me El Sisi or Sisi, El-Sisi. Now, he's a man after Trump's own heart, assuming it's beating, and there is one. And the answer is he is that person because he was a general and he basically committed a coup against the president, took over the government, and it doesn't end there. He then removed from the Constitution term limits so that he could be président à vie, although I guess they don't speak in French there. Maybe they do. And I don't speak in French, but there it is. And then he eliminated the Constitution too. Now tell me that this isn't an idol for Trump to be beholden to. Now, why in the world would the Egyptian help this guy Trump? Well, because we have given billions and billions of dollars to Egypt while Trump was president. And would you consider that a bribe? Well, I don't know. Since 1979, so this is before Trump was president, we have given $40 billion in military aid and $30 billion, I believe, in economic assistance. So that's a lot of fun. So why did that case go south? Why hasn't anything happened with it? Well, here's a name for you in terms of reliable getting things done. Mueller. Mueller had investigated this, and the U.S. Attorney Liu, L-I-U, was prosecuting it, and the investigators wanted to press it, and she backed off. And guess who she spoke to? Another, the usual suspects, Barr, former Attorney General Barr, who runs around the town getting everybody to suck up to him because he gives little anecdotes critical of Trump, even as he was cooperating with and doing what he did at the behest of Trump. These people are just amazing. So the fair question is, what did anybody do about it? Well, there's an attorney general who could have done something about it. His name is, Garland. Yeah, that guy. That guy who doesn't do a damn thing. Well, he didn't do a thing about this. There it was in his office, and he never did anything about it. And guess what? The statute of limitations has run. Now, an imaginative person who was a strong prosecutor might be able to find a theory here. But this is just another paint stroke in a magnificent, bloody portrait of who Trump is and all those who associate with him, which is that there are no morals, that there is no law, that there is no constitution that could in any way deter these people from their criminal conspiracies, their self-aggrandizing activities, their lies to the public, and cutting corners in every way and defying whatever it is we think is the decorum and the rules of the United States. So that's what Trump did. And so how you say, is that positive? It's positive because there's been light shone upon this misconduct. Now, this guy, Trump, we're talking about, apparently can do anything. I mean, he talked about shooting somebody at Times Square, but are all the people in America who are elected officials and so forth so limp that they can't do anything about this? Well, I think we're in a different time. I think the fact that this story is out there is already different. I'd like to hear what Mueller had to say. I'd like to see what the documents said. I think that we should have a disclosure of this stuff. I think there should be an investigation of the Justice Department. Nobody's hired me to do this, and boy, does it sound like a tiring undertaking. But what I found is that, and some of you follow, what is it, Joseph, I've been blocking us, Joseph Campbell. He talked about when you're doing something that is really important to you, you just keep going at it, because there's like a warrior part of us. You know, it happens if your child gets hurt. It happens if there's an emergency and you have to stay up all night or even for several days. Things happen. We don't seem to have enough warriors in America. We have got this reputation of being, land of the free, home of the brave. Well, talk about false advertising. We also say all men are equal before the law. Bullshit, not true. And that's what we're fighting to keep. We're trying to keep those values that are under assault and being ignored by Trump and his cohorts. Now, on Friday, that's today still, despite the heat and the rain, and that I'm indoors, today, as a result of the court's decision, the case is back in Judge Chutkan's office. Those are the 4 counts, basically accusing Trump as the sole defendant of being involved in the attack on the Capitol and all the things that led up to it. Now, why is it today? When a decision issues from the court, it doesn't have effect until the mandate issues, meaning there's a period of time in which things can be done that could attack, address, or whatever the decision of the court. And so that date is today. Okay, so now it goes back to Judge Chutkan. What can she do with it? Well, it depends. Here's a spectrum. Now, if you had a crazy former New York lawyer like myself, we would be setting a trial date, number 1, on Monday, and then I would give you 2 weeks for motions and to get your act together, and we'd be trying this on Labor Day, day after Labor Day. And what about the election? What about the election? Shouldn't have committed the crime, if you don't have the time, don't commit the crime. So you want to run for office? Fine. Why don't you do it the same way you ran for office while you were being prosecuted by DA Bragg? So that you can see how terrible I feel for him. But I think a stern court, and Judge Chutkan has it in her to do that. But it's going to take courage. That's the word I'll use, courage. There are less polite words, but that'll do for today. Now, what else is going on that I think is enjoyable? Well, I don't know if she says it's Simone Biles, but she's the gymnast, and she got her gold medal, and that's fabulous because you may remember that she is very. How do you know the center when you're a gymnast doing what she does? And apparently, it's a fairly complicated human thing of intent, practice, and so forth. And she lost that for a period and had to withdraw. Well, she came back gangbusters, flying through the air. It would be great to be able to do that. My time has passed to even think about it, but she did such a fabulous performance in the Olympics. And she then went on social media and she wrote, "I love my black job." And I posted a picture of Kamala, and she's there, and it talks about her getting her black job. So you guys, Trump and Vance, you two characters, you two bookends, you're getting just what you deserve. And here's on top of it, when Nixon was a crook, they kept asking him, and finally said, "I am not a crook." Well, Trump and Vance are out there, and they're both denying that they're weird. They are not. Well, I guess it's hard for Trump to say I'm not a crook, although he says it's all fixed and stuff like that. But hey, that's him. Um, my my wish is that Pete Buttigieg be the vice president. Uh, and I realize how complicated the thing is, and there are 6 persons who've been identified publicly, and something there could be a shadow of a hope for Pete. But Kamala is going to figure out who should be her vice president this weekend. You know, it's subject to change, of course, and probably announce it Monday or next week sometime. So I'm not. I don't think Pete's going to make the cut. I still think he should make the cut, but that's the way it is. And the last thing that comes to my mind is Rudy Giuliani. Now, you may or may not know that he and I served together. He was 2 years ahead of me in the office, which is a lot of time given how active we are as prosecutors in that office. And so, in fact, the day I was sworn in on a 5-week fraud case. I raised my hand. They sent me to a courtroom. I had to argue to get there to sit in the case because they'd already been picking the jury. And a famed defense lawyer, securities defense lawyer, when I was making my application saying I saw that I didn't know anybody on the jury and so forth, the judge was still mulling it over. And then this lawyer says, "Hey, Your Honor, give the kid a chance." And he did. So it was a defense counsel that got me to appear in my first case. Now, that's important to me because on that same day, Rudy Giuliani was starting a trial, and it was going to be prosecuting a congressman, Podell. And he did such a good cross-examination, I'm 99% certain it's Podell, that Podell broke down and pleaded guilty. Okay, and I had a hearing after I was in the office for a while, and Rudy and I did it together. He was at his best then, and when I left the U.S. Attorney's Office and I went to D.C. to conduct some investigations for the Senate, Rudy was coming to New York to become the U.S. Attorney, and I sold him my apartment. Now, the reason I take you on this little tour with myself is Rudy was a different person then. He had become a Republican when he came back. When he went down to D.C. to work in the Department of Injustice, he was a Democrat. He was a Bobby Kennedy Democrat, defended Bobby's reasons for running in New York and supported him and so forth. So he came back a changed person. He wasn't crazy then, but he had decided that if he was going to take a position in Washington, he should be a Republican. And I sort of collapsed in an accordion-like way from that time when he took over, when I sold him my place at 444 East 86th Street, which I got at an insider price, and it was still a good price for Rudy. And now, years later, and I believe he doesn't any longer live there, he has to sell his penthouse in New York and his Florida condo. And he's exposed to that judgment for slander that's $148 million if I have my numbers right. And he's putting $100,000 in escrow to cover the fees of representation in the bankruptcy proceeding. And those are $350,000. So the people are just going to lose money right and left. But he's going to lose his home, it sounds like, both of them. So I would say that the trend is very good. That is against the Trump conspiracy to take over our government, cancel the Constitution, stop term limits so that 4 years from now Roman Catholics won't have to vote, and all of the above. And I think that this is a good time for us. I think, I expect we'll hit potholes and things like that. But we're becoming stronger every day. And when I say we, I'm talking about we the people who believe in a democracy in which all persons are equal, in which fair play is an element of our Constitution and our law. And that because of the franchise, we have an opportunity to tame our government when it gets out of hand, and to encourage our government to tame business when they get too greedy and they get out of hand. I think that's a pretty fair statement for what our overarching objectives may be. So I think it might be bad luck to say that I hope tomorrow I'll be walking on the road and talking to you. Early today I went for a swim, so I got, which always puts me in a better mood. I think that those of you who like swimming, I think it's the best thing for you physically and psychologically. A couple of flip turns, getting wet all the time. Also, it feels really good when you come in from the heat to something like that. And I've gotten your cards and letters and post-its about who's comfortable being a vegan or vegetarian, and who is an unforgiving carnivore who won't change for any reason. But think about increasing the vegetables and so forth, reducing the carbohydrates. Be careful about salt and sugar and fat, and we'll all be around longer maybe that way. So thanks for the notes that you send. I try to answer all of them, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.